thought Will Hall was slightly less caffeinated than sometimes when we visit with him, but also maybe saving himself just a touch. Calm before the storm with camp starting tomorrow for Southern Miss there in Hattiesburg.
Well, I will tell you that when I spoke to the people at USM today getting this put together, their first meeting is at 4. The first team meeting is today at 4. So he had to save some juice for that, my guess is, so we didn't get the full Will Hall experience.
He just sounds like success. You ever listen to somebody and think he's going to be successful? That's when Will Hall talks, you're like, that guy's he's good at whatever he does. He's good at. Doing. Like, yeah. I would love to know next time we get to talk to him or any coach really, because he said he on his iPad has been watching the Chiefs lately, which. I mean, an Andy Reid offense is probably a really good one to learn from. I would love to know how much they, quote-unquote, steal from other coaches and schemes and stuff like that. When you're watching the Chiefs, how much of that have you taken and implemented in your offense? Like, how much do you steal from an Andy Reid or a Sean Payton or somebody like that when you watch these NFL teams? How much of your offense is influenced by that? I would love to know, what they accomplish when they watch that.
I told him his wife she knew what he was doing when he was multitasking. I loved his response. She's a team player.
Yeah, she's in this to win it.
She remembers what it was like living the way we lived in some of those previous stops. She is quite happy to be where we are right now. They, progress, right? 3 wins in the first year, but 2 of those 3 wins came in the final 2 games of the regular season to build a little momentum going into the offseason. Year 2, they get to 6-6, get to a bowl game, win the bowl game, so they finish above 500. Will Hall said at the end of the season he would like to look back and see that they took another step as a program. Would be thrilled with a giant leap, but looking for another step. What would that step look like for you guys?
To be in contention for a division title, which I think they can be. When I think about a new coach taking over a losing program, which is what USM was when Will Hall arrived, I feel like it's always a 3-year schedule, right? Year 1, we're going to compete, we're going to fight hard, but the results might not be there yet. Year 2, we're going to start to get some results, right? You're going to start to see the fruits of our labor. Year 3 is the year where, okay, now we have a chance to compete and play with the teams in our conference. That's where I think USM is, and if they get good quarterback play, they're going to be right there in the Sun Belt race.
Yeah, and I mean, 2 years ago, you'd have thought that they were getting the easier of the 2 divisions, with Appalachian State and Coastal being in the other. But the 2, I mean, you could argue going into the season, unless I'm missing one, 2 of the best Group of 5 teams in terms of last year's results and expectations going into 2023 are in their division, with South Al and Troy.
I don't think there's any debating that.
I mean, I off the top of my head, Coastal Carolina is going to be good with McCall again, but that's it, I think.
Yeah, but and that's also the reason that Southern Miss is 4th or tied for 3rd or tied for 4th, however you want to describe it, with Louisiana. Right? I mean, as we sit here right now, Troy is ahead of Southern Miss as a program. South Alabama is ahead of Southern Miss as a program. But it's not like an insurmountable deficit. And the biggest way for Southern Miss to make up ground will be with on-field results. I don't know if this is the best analogy or not, but it feels like there's a little bit of tortoise in the hare in the way that Southern Miss is going about things, the way that Will Hall is kind of building this. And in that example, Southern Miss is the hare, where it's just kind of steady, keep plodding, keep going, make a little progress, don't slow down, just steady as she goes. But I don't know that in that example there is a hare, rabbit, option for Southern Miss. Like, there's not some massive infusion of cash or massive infusion via NIL or immediate access to 4- and 5-star players that can completely flip your roster, or the ability to be too deep at every single position on the roster and feel great about that. There's no quick fix. There's no silver bullet for Southern Miss. It's going to be a slow and steady thing where, okay, maybe last year was moving past 3-9 and putting 3-9 and 3-9 type seasons in the rearview mirror. Knowing that 6-6 is not ultimately where you want to be, but if we're going to get to 8-4 or 9-3, we got to make a pit stop at 6-6 on the way from 3-9 to 9-3.
And in the health of the most important position on the field last year, probably limited them from, a couple more wins. You know, when you're dealing and had to deal with the injury luck at quarterback that they've dealt with the last 2 years, that was totally fine as a result. But step forward needs to come too. The schedule is so brutal, though. I mean, they could be a better team and not have a record that's much different. I mean, because they did beat Tulane last year. That is true, but Tulane's very good. South Allen Troy, very good. You got to go to Boone and Florida State, who I think is a fringe playoff team, and then an SEC team on your schedule. I mean, it is as tough of a G5 schedule as you can have, man. I mean, it is. I need to do a deep dive onto the schedule strengths, because they're almost always SEC or Big Ten teams. I mean, Colorado's got a really tough schedule because they play 11 Power 5 games. But among the G5 peers, I would be willing to bet that Southern Miss is at the top, if not very close to it, in terms of difficulty in schedule.
You get the projected winner of the ACC, the projected winner of the American, and a projected bowl team from the SEC. And then you get Alcorn State.
It's tough.
Which obviously from the SWAC is a game that you expect to win, but there's a lot of drama that goes around a game like that. And I don't mean drama in a bad way. I mean just build up and excitement. And a lot of Alcorn State fans that'll show up for that, and we'll look forward to that game because it's an in-state game against a Division I opponent. That's a hard non-conference schedule that Southern Miss is playing. I was listening to who was it? Maybe Jacob Hester and Cole Kubelik yesterday. And I think this was on a replay of something last night. And Cole was talking about a conversation that he had with Terry Bowden a long time ago when Terry Bowden was at Akron. And he said, look, in terms of building our schedule, we scheduled 2 teams to pay the bills and 1 team that we think we can win, or 1 team that we think we can beat. I mean, when you think about a place like Akron and the reliance there is on buy games, money games, not just for football revenue, but for revenue for the entire athletics department. I don't know that that's exactly the case with Southern Miss, because, you know, maybe with the Florida State game, maybe there's a pretty significant paycheck there. But if I remember correctly, hey, Dad, the Mississippi State deal was part of a larger framework deal that brought Mississippi State to Hattiesburg, but Southern Miss had to go to Starkville a couple of times, and it reduced the payout. So there wasn't some big, we're writing you a check for $1.5 million to come to Starkville. It was, travel expenses and a little bit of money comes in, but we'll come to your place for 1 out of 3 games. Right.
This is the second of a 2-for-1, and then there's a 1-for-1 down the pipe with them.
Yeah. And then the other piece, Tulane's they're not paying Southern Miss a bunch of money. I mean, Tulane was in Hattiesburg last year.
Yeah.
Right?
That's probably just a home
vice
and home.
versa.
No, it was vice versa.
I'm
sorry.
Yeah.
Southern Miss was in New Orleans last year, and Tulane comes to Hattiesburg this year. You know what Southern Miss needs? You know what Southern Miss needs out of that?
A win.
A sellout crowd.
They need a big crowd at the Rock. Because to make a game like that pay off, you need to pay it off with concession receipts and tickets sold and people in. And then you also capitalize with some momentum, and you hope those people come back.